Hi, welcome back. This is the final code for the ZHW Shoes website. In this code, I will be completing the contact form and using a bit of provided PHP code that's going to actually submit the information in the form to your email address. So I'd like to show you guys how I added that into the site and also teach you how you can update it to make it work in your own site. So first I'm going to bring up the site itself just so we can see what I've added to it. So this is the contact form page, and all of these first form inputs here on the top already existed there, as you know, but I did add in one additional input here and also this verification image here which is generated. So you can see if I refresh the page, each time I refresh the page, this number changes here, like that. Pretty cool, huh? So we're using PHP to generate this image. And in order to view any files that have this PHP code in them, what I had to do was I had to bring up my local testing server. In this case, I'm on Mac, so I brought up MAMP here. And MAMP is not only an Apache server on your local computer, it also includes PHP and MySQL, so you can use it for other things as well. And so we've added this verification input so we can make sure that we don't get spam to our email box. It'll be actual real human beings, not web applications that are out there causing havoc, sending out emails to people, all kinds of junk mail. So we want to prevent that junk mail, so we're going to make sure people are actually human beings by typing in this code that's generated here. So just to show you that this works, I've actually uploaded this to my server, and you will need to actually upload this. You can basically you can preview the files, and you can even test out like the random image generation here via your local testing server, but you will need the ability to connect to a mail server, which your hosting company will be providing in order for this to actually submit or send the email. So you'll have to upload this first to actually get it to work. So I've already uploaded this, and we'll just test it out. I'm going to type in the name of Bob, and then we will go ahead and type in his email, which we'll say is bob@bob.com. I do apologize if this is actually someone's email address. I just made that up. Sorry, Bob. And the phone is optional, so I just won't put in a phone number there. And we'll leave a message. We'll say, I haven't seen you in so long, like that. Oops. And then we have to verify that we're human. Okay. So right now, if you put this number in incorrectly, like this, it just takes you to a very basic error message that says the message is not sent. Please go back and fill in the required fields. We could make this nicer. Maybe that's something I'll add as a future update. Normally, if I was building this for a client, I would use JavaScript to validate this, and then I would print a message probably here that says that it's not correct, or maybe add a red outline around the form input, something like that. Which would be a little more stylish, but for now I just wanted to make this as simple as possible and stick to just HTML, CSS, and PHP. So we have that real generic message. But basically you could add that could be an improvement you can add, and maybe at a later date I'll come back and improve that a little. But this will suit our needs for right now. So then if they do put in the verification image correctly, I'll put in the correct numbers this time, like that. And then if we click send, cool, it takes us to this page, which is a page called contact_success.html. And I created this page simply by duplicating the contact page and then obviously removing the form and just putting in this background image of a thumbs up right there. So if we jump back over to my email, we can actually check if that has shown up. And there you can see it's actually already exists there. So that was pretty fast. Just in the time it took me to talk about it or explain that we were going to check was actually enough time for the mail server to send it to my email box. So it really should only take a matter of minutes for it to show up. Depending on your hosting provider's mail server or how backed up it is, it could take longer. I've never really seen it take more than like 10 minutes to arrive. So if I go ahead and click on this message, I can show you what it looks like there. So it tells me the message is from bob@bob.com. And we see here is Bob's name and Bob's email. And I didn't put anything in for a phone number, but if I had put in that phone number, it would appear here. And then we can see the message, I haven't seen you in so long. So you can see that's looking pretty good there. Okay, so that guy's working. That's pretty awesome. If people want to get back to the form, if they wanted to send another message, they can click the contact link again and they'll go right back there. Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty of how I added this here and how I built this guy and got it working, and then I'll also show you how you can tweak the code to make it work for your email address instead of mine. So let's go ahead and hop on over to the code. And the first thing that I did was, when I was building this, is I added 2 additional files. One of them is called mailer.php and the other one is called verificationimage.php. So you can see both of those over here. Here's mailer and here's verification image. Verification image, if we click on that, I put a comment at the top here that says no need to touch this code. So you really don't even have to touch verification image. If you just include it with your other site files, you'll be able to link to it and have it do its thing. So this is all PHP code, and we're not going to discuss PHP in this class. This class is strictly HTML and CSS. So there's no need to really go into great detail about this, but what it's doing is it's generating a random number, and it's also it's also generating random pixels on a grid, and then it's converting that into an image. It actually builds an image file from that, which is pretty amazing. And there's about 29 lines of code, so PHP is able to generate a random image of numbers and dots like that, just in 29 lines of code, which isn't too bad. Okay, and then the other file I created here is called mailer.php. And the way this works is, again, I put a comment on line 14, no need to touch the code below this line. So you really don't have to mess with any of the code below line 14. In fact, you probably don't want to mess with it. But really what's happening here is it's basically taking the input that was posted when you clicked the submit button on the form, and it's taking that information and it is sending it in a mail. It's actually mailing it off using the mail server of your host to the particular email address that you specify. So this is where you specify which email address you want it to actually send to. Just to create a placeholder, I wrote you@yoursite.com, and obviously you'll have to come in here and change that. Don't use my email address. I don't want to get a whole bunch of emails from all you guys. That would make me sad if I got hundreds of test emails coming through. So that's why I changed this guy to you@yoursite.com, and that's on line 9 for the send to variable. Okay. The other thing that you might want to set is the subject variable, which is on line 12 here. In this set of quotes here, you might want to change this to say whatever your site is. So for this site, I put ZHW Shoes contact form submission, and this is what will show up as the subject for the email that is sent. And that's really all you really need to set for this, is the email address it's going to and the subject of the email. When you type this, you want to keep those little quote marks there. You want to type in between these quote marks. The little yellow single quotes you see here on the left and right, those are completely essential to making it work. So it'll break if you remove those. So again, for the subject, you want to type only here in between those quote marks. And then you'll resave the file and you should be good to go. So aside from adding the mailer and the verification image.php, I also changed the file extension on the contact page. Previously this was called contact.html, and I had to change this to contact.php because I'm actually choosing to use a little snippet of PHP in here in order to get the verification image to work. So I can show you that code if we scroll down to the form here. And I think I'll set this guide to word wrap so we can see all the code without having to scroll over. There we go. Okay, so all of these inputs were there before. This guy here is new. It's an input type of text with the name of verify. And in the placeholder, I just put verify you're human. I've also added a class of verify box to this, and I did style it a little bit. I gave it a width. If you want to check that out, you can jump to the style.css page here, and you can find that, which is right here. There we are, on line 119. It's called input.verifyBox is the class I added. And I set this guy to display inline block so it can be side by side with that form input. And I gave it a width of 80% to make room for the actual verification image over on the side. And then the verification image itself, I did add a tiny bit of code for here. I gave it a width and a height and told it to align to the bottom. Okay, that's really about it for the style. And then the only other thing is this image tag here for the verification image itself. What we're doing here is, instead of linking to a typical image file like myimage.jpg or what have you, what we're doing is we're actually linking to the verification image.php file here, and we're also sending in generating a random number for it. And that will allow it to do its thing and generate a number for you. Okay, so those are the only two things I added to the form, was the input box and the verification image, and that's using this file here, verification image.php. Okay, and then additionally, we also changed the action here of the form. Remember before the form action, I think, was a placeholder. I think I just put like a pound symbol here previously. And now I've changed this to actually point toward the mailer.php file. So that way, after the user has typed in their name, their email, and their telephone number and a message, and typed in the verification image, they're going to click the submit button on the form, which is down here. And when they click the submit button, it's going to use this action to know where to send the information that they've typed in. So they've typed in their name, their email, their phone, and their message, and the verification image. And that's all being sent to this file, mailer.php, which is right here. And this is, of course, the file that we just discussed, right? Where you put in the email address to send this to, and the subject. And it will gather all of that information, and it will submit it. It says if it verifies that that verification image verifies there, it's going to mail it, and then it's going to change the location, send the user to the contactsuccess.html page. Okay. Otherwise, if it doesn't verify, it's going to send that error message that I showed you before. Okay. Alright, so that's pretty cool. So this guy's working, and that's all you need to do. Is if you want to implement this into your site, you'll need to make the changes that I just mentioned here. You'll need to add the verification box image code from here to here, from input, verify, all the way down to the end of the verification image. You'll have to change the action to point to mailer, and of course you'll have to include the verification image.php and the mailer.php script in order for it to work. And then you would want to create your own contact success page, essentially. let's see, a few other things to mention that's important is I did change the name of this page to contact.php as I mentioned previously. And again, that was because I did use a little bit of PHP script right here inside the page. And I need to use this file extension for it in order for this script to work here. So when I changed the name, I had to go to the navigation for all the pages and update that. Because you remember on line 50 here we have the links for navigating between all the pages, and here's the contact link. And before this used to say contact.html on all the pages, and since I changed the file extension I had to go back through to each page and change it to contact.php. But that's really all you have to do, and then you should have this nice little verification box and be able to submit an email and actually have that guy show up in your inbox here. So that's pretty cool. That's all. I hope you guys had fun building this project. Take care. God bless.